Welcome back to Mae Sot, Thailand on a very hot Friday morning. And in the last video, I went to the hospital here in Mae Sot and I got a booster shot, a vaccine booster shot. And at that time, they said, you know, you just wait 2 weeks, and at the end of 2 weeks, we will update your online records. And when they do that, they update, you know, the database that the government is keeping. Then it automatically gets transferred to the More Prom app on my phone. And they said, once you see your records have been updated on the app, then you can return to the hospital, go to window number 2 in the main floor, and then I can get my international vaccine passport updated as well. So, you know, I was all set to wait for 2 weeks, but this morning, just 3 days after I got the booster, I checked the app just for fun. I've been checking it every morning just to see, you know, sort of like, yeah, like a little surprise in the morning to see when it'll be updated. So, yeah, I turned it on this morning and boom, there it was. It had the certificate and the records for vaccine dose 1, vaccine dose number 2, which I've had there for the last 6 months. And now there's a third one, vaccine dose number 3, you know, with the lot number, the serial number, the name of the vaccine, the date it was administered, you know, all that technical information is there. So that's good. And in theory, I can go to the hospital now and get my vaccine passport updated. So that's what I'm doing right now. The funny thing is that I was thinking about this little walk this morning, going to the hospital, and what I would say on the video, because in the last video, I developed this theme of third time's the charm. It was my third visit to the hospital to get the booster, and I thought that since it was the third time being the charm, it would be lucky and I would get the booster, and in fact, everything worked out perfectly. So third time really was the charm, but as I was thinking it through this morning, I realized that wasn't my third trip to the hospital at all. It was my fourth. I'd completely forgotten about one of the trips I had taken in all of my reconnaissance missions. So I set off, I was going to set off thinking this is my fourth trip to the hospital, my fourth walk there, but it isn't. It's the fifth one. So yeah, I make this whole big video theme of third time's the charm, and it was all nonsense because it was actually the fourth time, not the third time. But what are you going to do? And to get to the hospital, I'm going to walk through the market again. It's always the more interesting way to go. This is one of the main downtown streets of Mae Sot, and this alleyway on the right is the, you know, the first sort of entrance into the market. This is new, I think. I'm not sure I've seen this before, an SOS emergency button. Look at that. Very high tech. Camera up there at the top. Oh, look at that. The camera was tracking the scooter as it went by. Wonder if that's motion detection or someone wanted to follow that scooter. Smart safety zone 4.0. And I guess, yeah, there's a camera down here so they can see me looking at it right now. And then an SOS button. So yeah, you press that button if you're in trouble, I guess. Huh. Always something new when you're walking around. The camera is bigger than I would have expected. You often see CCTV cameras, but they're always quite small. That's a big camera. Oh, look at that. It's turning to look up the street now. If it tilts down to look directly into my eyes, I'm gonna run away. But yeah, it's just monitoring the intersection, I guess. Huh, very cool. So there's a the market street. Not so busy this morning. Oh, look at this. As one of the premiere videos that I posted lately, I went to the village of Banjabo and they were setting off fireworks. And I noticed these ones in particular because they were so loud, and because when you threw them, because they're a ball, they would go rolling down the street and you never quite knew where they were going to end up. So they were quite an exciting firecracker to set off. I wanted to buy some when I was there, but I couldn't find them anywhere. I'm tempted to buy these, but to be honest, I don't know when I would ever set them off. Look at this, the whole display. All kinds of firecrackers. Oh, look at this. They got the small ones and then the large ones, or medium-sized ones.
Dangerous.
As I said, I'm very tempted to buy some of those cherry bombs. Someone told me in the comments that they're called cherry bombs. I'd love to buy some cherry bombs, but when and where would I ever set them off? I wouldn't want to do it at the guest house, scare everybody half to death, plus make a mess that you have to sweep up, or somebody has to sweep up afterwards. So I'm not really sure there would ever be a good time to set them off, and I just end up with a big bag of explosives sitting in my room. So anyway, I just looked at them and I didn't buy any. It's getting a bit busier the closer we get to the main market building. I imagine it was a lot busier earlier this morning. That's when a lot of people come to the market. It's a quarter to 11 right now, so things have died down. Hello, how are you? And for anyone keeping score about cameras and technology, you might notice I have a different camera mounted on my chest harness today. This is the DJI Pocket 2. And I don't usually put it on a chest harness. I use it in other situations. But I was watching a video from Paddy Doyle yesterday, and he just bought one of these cameras and he brought it out into a market and he was testing it for the first time, you know, figuring out how to use it. And anyway, just seeing him playing around with his Pocket 2 kind of inspired me to try this one out on the chest harness, see how that works. I don't have high hopes for it. It's not really designed to do this. Well, I've sort of been wandering around in the countryside for a while. I was trying to approach the hospital from a different direction down some new streets, and my Xiaomi smartphone doesn't have the best GPS system built into it. You're supposed to get that blue dot on Google Maps and it shows you the direction you're facing, right? And you use that to get oriented. But on my Xiaomi phone, it's always aiming in the wrong direction. It'll be pointing one way when it's completely wrong. Should be pointing the other way or at 90 degrees or something like that. And an amusing thing is I always get this little message pops up that says, accuracy is low, tap to improve. But the dumb thing about that accuracy is low message you get is that when it pops up, it replaces the blue dot, covers everything up, and you can't see anything. So as long as that error message is there, you have no idea where you are. And of course, if you tap on it, it just tells you to do this weird, you know, figure 8 motion with your phone to recalibrate all the sensors. And I've done that 100 times and it never improves anything. So anyway, I zigged when I should have zagged, and I ended up way out there in the countryside somewhere. But it's an interesting walk. But I was more in the mood to just get to the hospital and get this errand taken care of. But we're back on track. There's the hospital up ahead. Almost there. And there's the hospital once more. That purple tarp over there outside the orange building, that's where I got the booster. And over here, in theory, I can update my vaccination passport. Window number 2. I keep telling myself that so I don't forget. Need a stamp?
Okay.
Thank you. Welcome, crap. There is window number 2, and I have my passport and vaccine booklet ready to go, and I have my 3rd booster there on my More Prom app. I'll show the guy all of this, and hopefully he can do something for me. Oh. Hello. Number some? So far so good. They understand exactly what I want. Okay, I think I'm making progress. They understood instantly what it was I was there to do, and they just needed my vaccine booklet and my passport. So I assume my passport number is connected to my online record, because I offered them my phone with the More Prom app on it that has my 13-digit ID number. It has all the QR codes. It has all the information, but they didn't need that at all. All they needed was my passport. So yeah, that's fine. And I have a slip of paper here that tells me I have to come back on May 13th. So about a week. Yeah, a week from now, next week, Friday. Today's Friday, come back next Friday. And the only other thing is I asked them if I have to pay, and they said, well, to pay I have to go to window 8. And I have a receipt here, but there's no amount written on the receipt. So I don't know whether I have to pay anything or not. I guess I'll just go to window 8, hand them this piece of paper and see what they say. Maybe they'll want money, maybe they won't. If I remember right, when they say window 8, what they mean is 108, because I've been here before and I had to pay something. So let's see what happens. 50? Okay. Thank you.
คุณมาลายน้ำสิงหินขอติดต่อช่องเบอร์20ค่ะรับยาที่ช่อง19ค่ะ
So that worked out okay. Again, I had no idea whether I was supposed to pay or not. There was nothing written on the form, so I just gave her the piece of paper, and she typed something into her computer and told me it cost 50 baht. And then the same piece of paper was printed out, but now the numbers 50 baht are printed on them. So it's interesting. Yeah, you kind of have to know what to do in advance. Like, I've been here before, and I did all this with the previous vaccine, so I knew about this piece of paper, I knew about window 108, and that, as long as you know, everything makes sense. If you don't know, then things get complicated. Yeah, and as far as I can tell, I'm all done. Because I'm a dummy and I'm a foreigner, I'm just going to double check anyway. I'm going to show them that I paid at this window 3, and then they can probably just, you know, smile at me and tell me, okay, you can go home now. All set. As I expected, I kind of freaked those 2 girls out because I'm holding this piece of paper up to them and they have no idea what I'm asking or what it is that I'm trying to do, and they're just standing there looking kind of frightened. And then I eventually came up with the sign language, like, okay, do I have to give this to you or keep it? And they're like, oh, no, you don't have to give it to us. You can just go away and come back next Friday. So, and by then my vaccine passport should be updated. Whew. As always, the walk to get here was a bit more frantic than I expected, just because of traffic and things like that. But now I need to sit down somewhere and gather my wits and pat all my pockets, make sure I have my passport and all the papers and my smartphone and my wallet. When you're doing something like that, it's so easy to leave something behind. So I always double check before I leave. It's so easy to see where mistakes could be made. In my case, I didn't make any, but that's mainly because I've done this before, as I said. But when I went up to I was told, of course, over and over to go to window 2. I had window 2 burned into my brain. But as soon as I went up to window 2, the guy's like, what are you doing here? No, window 3, window 3. So, okay, it's not window 2, it's window 3. I go there, and everything there works smoothly. And they stamped and filled out a bunch of forms for me. But then they handed me this form, they handed it back along with the receipt, and almost anyone at that point would have just turned around and left because you're all done. You know, they told you to come back in a week. You've got the date with your appointment, that's your appointment slip. You've got the receipt, you're good to go, you leave. But the one thing I'm thinking about the entire time is I've given them my passport, and they took it into the back to make a photocopy, and then they filled out all the forms, and then when they give me the appointment slip and said you're free to go, they still have my passport, right? But they totally forgot that they had it, and that happens all the time. If anyone ever takes your passport to go make a photocopy, half the time your passport stays in the photocopier, you know, it just stays there. Or if you bring in a flash drive or a memory card to a print shop, they plug it into your computer, you get your printout, you leave. Very, very easy to forget your flash drive. But I'm experienced in these things, so I was thinking about my passport the whole time. And as they told me, okay, you're done, you can go, I kind of leaned over and was looking around and going, passport? And they're like, oh, yeah. And they go and get my passport and give it to me. But then, as far as I was concerned, I could just go home. But based on my previous experience, I knew that there probably was some kind of payment involved. I didn't know for sure. I didn't know how much. I didn't know anything. But just in case, I went to window 108. And it turns out, yeah, I had to pay 50 baht. But that never came up in any of our interactions. I just had to know this myself. But yeah, I did that. But I can see making the same mistake multiple times, you know. It'd be so easy to make mistakes going through that process. And I think hanging out overseas like this, your life gets shortened by these adrenaline bursts. Because I sat down there outside the hospital just to double check, make sure I had everything. I was like, okay, I've got my passport, I've got my appointment slip to come back, I've got the receipt that I paid. And then I thought for a second, oh, my vaccination booklet, I don't have that anymore. And I'm just like, my heart starts pounding. I lost my vaccination booklet. But of course, 5 seconds later, I realized, oh no, they kept my vaccination booklet. They have it now. So it's like, I mean, all day long, I have these little shots of adrenaline, like, oh, he's like, oh, where's my wallet? Oh, where's my passport? It's like, ah, what's going on? Oh, that car almost hit me. After a day like this, I think my life has been shortened by a week. Yeah, but anyway, success. And I guess that is it for this morning's small adventures. All I wanted to do was get that taken care of, and that's all done. And I wanted to post this little update to YouTube in case anyone's following the saga of my booster quest. Slowly coming to an end. One more trip to the hospital remains. Coming back on the 13th, and that should be it for now. And in case anyone is curious about how this is working out, having the Pocket 2 on a chest harness, I haven't seen the video yet, so the video might be very good for all I know, but right now it doesn't seem like a very practical application for this camera. When you have it on a chest mount like this, it's lying against your chest, and all the controls and the screen, everything, are on this side of the camera, kind of pressing up against my chest. I could turn it around so everything is facing outward, but then I still don't really have access to any of the controls, and then other people in front of me would be able to see the LCD screen, which I don't want. I just want it to be as unobtrusive as possible. And on the Pocket 2, I don't think there's any way to turn off the LCD screen. There are no settings for that. It's always on. And I can't tell where the gimbal is pointing. So I control the gimbal modes and I set it up as appropriately as I think I can, but you know, it does odd things. It has a brain of its own, and I keep finding it's pointing in some weird direction that I never intended it to be pointing in. Yeah, it's just not a... oh, plus, it doesn't give you a lot of feedback. For example, when you start and stop recording, the beep sound is really quiet. I can't hear anything. On the GoPro, I can raise the beep level high enough that I always hear it, even when I'm out in noisy traffic. So I know one beep, it started recording, 2 beeps, it stopped recording and saved the file. So it's a very handy camera if you're holding it in your hand, but mounting it like this on a chest harness, I don't know. Right now, it doesn't seem like a very practical use for this camera. It has many other practical uses. I love this camera for certain purposes, but perhaps not for this one. This would be the place to put a GoPro. Walking along this street reminds me of a little story from a few days ago. I was walking along here, probably coming back from the hospital, and I came across a couple of young boys sort of sitting near the 7-Eleven, and they were begging, they were asking for money. You quite often see children there begging, and they're people from Myanmar. There's been an increase in the number of refugees here in the Mesot area, of course. So these 2 boys were sitting there, and what I usually do, like I don't like to get out my wallet in the middle of the street and fumble around with that. I'll just sort of indicate to them if I'm going into the 7-Eleven. So, okay, I see you, no problem, but I'm going to go into the 7-Eleven, take care of what I need to do in there, and when I come out, I'll take care of you. So, like, don't worry, I'll be back. You know, I try to get all that information across in a series of hand gestures. Whether they understand me or not, I have no idea. But yeah, so I went into 7-Eleven that day. I bought a bottle of milk, and I got some money ready to give to the boys on my way out. So I come out of 7-Eleven, and the 2 boys are still sitting there. I have the money ready, so I hand it to them, and they were very polite and gave me a nice bow, you know, hands folded bow, as a gesture of thanks for the money. And I went walking on down the street, and then I hear footsteps, like fast running footsteps, and these 2 boys go blasting past me at a full run. They go running by me. He's got the money I gave him in his hand, sort of flapping in the wind. He goes around the corner with his friend, and the two of them keep running. And I'm wondering, wow, I didn't give them that much. I mean, why would they be so excited? I mean, it was enough to go buy a meal, you know, for both of them. So maybe they just ran off to go have lunch or something. But then, as soon as they turned the corner, two local motorcycle police came up behind me on a motorcycle. So these two motorcycle cops were chasing the boys, and that's why they ran away from the 7-Eleven. And you know, whether one of the local businesses had called the police and said, you know, can you move these people along, or whether the police just happened to spot them. But just at the moment when I'm giving them money, the police were creeping up on us. And as soon as I gave the boys the money, you know, they took off running with the police right behind them on their motorcycle. And around the corner, I saw the police caught up with them. And they were just talking to the boys and probably telling them, you know, yeah, you can't be doing that on this street, you know. And I'm sure as soon as the police leave, the boys will come back again. You know, what have they got to lose, I suppose. But yeah, that was just an interesting moment from the other day. Adding to my thoughts about the DJI Pocket on a chest mount, another issue that I run into is battery life, because the Pocket 2, it doesn't have interchangeable batteries like a GoPro. It has one battery built into it, and that's it. So you charge up that battery, and when it runs out, you can't do anything. You have to wait until you can plug it back in and charge it back up, and it takes, I don't know, 2-3 hours for it to fully charge. And if you have a camera on the chest harness, you sort of want it sitting there all the time, ready to go when you need it. So you're busy doing something, and suddenly it's like, oh, I want to record this transaction or this person I'm talking to. Then you need to be able to just hit the button and start recording. So it has to be on all the time. And it just doesn't have the battery power to last very long. It's not designed to do that. So it's another reason that a GoPro is better for a chest harness. The battery on a GoPro is going to run out too. And then you just remove it and pop in a fresh one. And you do that 4 times to get you through the day. It's not convenient, and it's not great, but at least you can keep running for the whole day. Because like right now, the Pocket 2 is dead. You know, the battery ran out. There's nothing I can do. I can't turn it back on. I continue to have funny experiences with numbers here. Occasionally I get in the mood to practice them. So when I buy something and I see the number on the cash register, I will confirm it with the cashier by saying the numbers in Thai, but they often have no idea what I'm saying. So I had this situation the other day. I got some photocopies made, and the bill came to 85 baht. So I thought for a second, and then I said to the woman, bed sheep ha, which is, you know, my version of 85. And she kept looking at me like I was a lunatic, like, what are you saying? And I said it a few times, and I pointed to the number she had typed out on the cash register. And then she says, ah, and then she said it, and she said something like, bed sheep ha, you know. She would sing, because it's tonal, you have to sing the number 5. It's not ha, it's more like ha. So I was like, bed sheep ha. And when I said that to her, her face lit up, big smile. She says, oh, you mean 85. Now I understand you. So you have to sing your numbers in Thailand to be understood. Back at home sweet home for now, Panu house. For the last week and a half, there's been a large group of young people staying here. And I haven't spoken to any of them, but it's pretty clear that they're part of a missionary group. And every morning they come out here to this balcony, and they have like a meeting here, you know, to talk about the day. And they have a song session. So every morning they're out here singing hymns. And my room is right there, so I hear them singing every morning. That's been kind of interesting. There it is, Panu. Yeah, a bunch of foreigners live up there on the top floor, like in the penthouse. And when they speak to me, they give me a lot of pity because I'm one of the lowly people down here on the main floor. But I kind of like it down here because, sure, the top floor would be more quiet, but I kind of like hearing everything that's going on. You know, hearing all the people going in and out, all the cars and motorcycles starting up and arriving. Yeah, it's just more fun to be down here in a way.